This house sold for $500,000 just a few years ago, and right now it is currently listed at $385,000. Believe it or not, the problem wasn't the house or even the builder, and that's what we're talking about today. I have literally lived in San Antonio my entire life, and these are 10 homes that I would never buy. Now, this one might seem like a small issue, but it's definitely not. In fact, this was one of the main issues that I focused on whenever I was building my new house. San Antonio summers can be brutal. In fact, even just last spring, we had a stretch of several days where it got over 100 degrees, which was the worst early heat this city has ever seen in that time of year. A west-facing backyard gets the full brunt of the Texas summer sun, and whenever you have those really nice houses with all those big windows on the back, lets in all that natural light, it also lets in all that baking heat from the sun. So your AC bill goes up, your back patio is almost unusable in the afternoons during the summer, and it just overall just takes a toll on being able to use that awesome backyard that you're trying to get when you're moving here. It's always one of the things that I recommend people do. Before you even go look at a house, pull up the map, see which direction that backyard faces. If you like to use that backyard, make sure that that backyard is not facing west, or you're gonna feel that heat whenever you're out there in the summer days. As most people know, San Antonio's growth has really exploded over the last few years. We're one of the fastest growing cities in the country, and we constantly rank as one of the top 10 cities in the entire country for new construction houses. Some of these master plan communities are outstanding. You've got lazy rivers, you've got weight rooms, you've got on-site entertainment and community developers and directors, and they got all kinds of stuff going for it, right? With relatively minimal HOA dues, might I add, for some of you guys that are thinking that HOAs are just a complete nightmare. The biggest problem that comes with these communities is that they are years, sometimes even 10 plus years away from being fully developed out. And if it's something that you do not want to do, that's sell a relatively new house and compete with the builders that spend tens of thousands and hundreds of thousands of dollars marketing their properties for sale. I will tell you this, myself and my family have never bought anything else other than new construction houses, so don't let this sway you away from buying new construction. But the biggest challenge is knowing when you might want to possibly move up. Okay, so planning ahead, planning in advance when you're buying these new construction houses is incredibly important. The good thing is that these builders are offering some really good incentives for the interest rate, so your payments can be really, really low. But whenever you are buying that house, and if you try to turn around and sell it like that house that I mentioned in the beginning, in just a few years, and you're still competing with the builder who has got all these incentives they're offering and just the appeal of having a brand new home for sale, it's going to make it very, very difficult to compete. And when you buy those brand new homes with the builder, you're paying a premium. So going in and buying an existing home that's 2, 3, 4 years old, you're going to get a much better deal on the price as a whole compared to buying it brand new with the builder. But if payment is the most important thing to you, and you know this is going to be a longer term 3, 4, 5 year plan, then by all means, let's go for those new construction houses and take a look at them. But that's not the only issue with new construction, and we're going to talk about that on the very last item on this list, so make sure you stick around for that. Now, we've talked about the heat and everything above the soil, but let's talk about stuff that happens below the soil. A lot of San Antonio does have that heavy clay soil. It's black dirt, right? Very good farmland, and a lot of these developments, because of the flat nature of farmland, have been built on these old farm fields. And with that, you've got very expansive soil underneath these houses. When we get those heavy rains in the spring or those drought conditions in the summer, the soil is constantly expanding and contracting. You'll see big cracks and crevices pop up on the sides of your foundations. You'll see in the middle of these big fields, sometimes if you look down, especially in very, very long dry spells, there's big cracks that you can almost stick your hand down into. In fact, whenever we were growing up in elementary school, I remember going and we would see those big cracks, and we would take rocks and we would see who could get it farthest down into the ground. And sometimes you'd go 1-2 feet down into the ground just from the surface cracks. And so you can imagine what's actually happening underneath your houses and whenever that happens as well. Most of these areas are typically on like the east side of San Antonio, going out towards like New Braunfels and Seguin, kind of that area south of New Braunfels and going into Seguin, especially that area, kind of like a pie shape basically between I-10 and I-35 really. So looking in the areas like Shirt, Cibolo, the south side of New Braunfels, Seguin, those areas that are a little bit more affordable, those have some outstanding neighborhood options, but you just have to pay attention to how you're managing the potential for that foundation movement under that house. In fact, one of the things, of course, to do before you even buy that house is getting an inspection done. And whenever you work with us at the Life and SATX Home Group, that is one of the things that we recommend constantly. We have multiple different inspectors, multiple different contacts of contractors for anything and everything that you guys need. But of course, if you guys are looking at relocating and moving here to the San Antonio area, we want to be that resource for you guys. Our information is down in the description below. You can call us, text us, email us, whether you're looking at moving here in 2 days or 2 years. We have a dedicated team of people that love this area, know it like the back of their hand, who can help you walk through that process of moving here. So San Antonio is huge. It actually covers nearly 500 square miles, making it one of the largest sprawling cities in the country. Now, the metro area is kind of immediately surrounding San Antonio. It doesn't get too much farther out. But what you have whenever you have one of the fastest growing cities in the country is that you have a lot of development. And so this is a kind of a personal preference for me. I like my quiet, I like my peace and quiet. I've got 4 acres, okay? I built a house out here so I could be in the middle of the quiet. But one of the things that can be a big problem when you're buying in these highly developing areas is dealing with construction constantly. So you have to pay attention to that whenever you're buying a house. It kind of goes back to that same point we talked about a minute ago with the new construction neighborhoods in the early stages of development. You're going to be dealing with construction nonstop, and that goes with if you're even buying a resale home in an existing neighborhood. Maybe it's a more established neighborhood, but the area around it is still developing a lot. You're going to be dealing with road construction constantly. You're going to be dealing with commercial development, just all kinds of stuff, which when it's done is going to be awesome. You're going to have lots of amenities close by, but in the meantime, it's going to be very difficult and very, kind of an annoyance, really. And so for me personally, that's just something that I would avoid on my part. Even though these areas could be the greatest long-term potential investment, especially if you're looking at a home that you're planning on keeping for 10, 15 years, and then, looking at the areas that could be better overall, because some of these neighborhoods and some of these areas, whenever they are doing this big development like this, can be a lot better for first-time home buyers. And, we're going to come back to this on that last point as well. But the big thing with, with these areas is just the noise and the construction traffic and all the people that are just coming in that don't live there. It makes things a little bit difficult. And while we're talking about noise and dealing with all kinds of stuff around the house, any house that's right on a highway or a train track, you should definitely avoid, especially if you're looking at resale potential. I mean, any house that backs up to a major road with lots of traffic going by is going to be a very, very difficult sell. It may be the perfect house, okay? And maybe for you, maybe it does make sense. Maybe this house is exactly what you need. You don't mind that. It's better for you. I always say there is something to be said about buying a house that is best for you and your situation, and don't plan for the selling, okay? But I know for me, and especially looking at that resale option, whenever I have clients looking at houses that are right on highways or right on train tracks, it's almost an immediate no. Train tracks especially are a big one. Obviously, coming in the middle of the night, having a train shake the house is nothing that anybody wants to deal with, but it's the same thing when you have big 18-wheelers driving by you behind the house in the middle of the night or in the morning. So it's just dealing with that noise inside the home is something that's just not a big thing that many people want to deal with. So this next item is one that definitely hits a little bit more of a somber tone whenever you're really paying attention to where you're buying your house, right? So last year in San Antonio, we had one of the wettest June days that we have ever had. And unfortunately, there was 13 people in San Antonio that died in that flood on June 12, 2025. The sad part about that was that I believe all of those people were people that were in their vehicles. The majority of the flooding that you get in and around San Antonio is on the roadways itself. A lot of the homes here, the vast majority of the homes here that are built near flood zones are built out of the flood zone, especially with the new developments. The new developers do not touch a flood zone with any house because they know that's going to be a very, very difficult sell. A lot of times if you're looking at homes, especially if they're near like a dry creek bed or a river, you got to check that FEMA flood map. It's very easy to do. You can go to the FEMA flood map website, plug in an address. It'll show you exactly where that property lies on the current flood zone. So definitely do that if you have any concerns whatsoever. Flood insurance can get very expensive, and especially if you want to buy on the river, there's some great river properties here, especially on the Guadalupe River over in Seguin and New Braunfels. There's some outstanding riverfront properties out that way, and they're going to need flood insurance, and most of those are on stilts. The ones that are up higher on elevation, that aren't on stilts, they're probably out of the flood zone a little bit more. But it's just something that you need to pay attention to. And, kind of looking at the older neighborhoods, those are the ones that, you really got to pay attention to in the city of San Antonio to see if there's any creeks or anything that runs by it that would require flood insurance for that house. And, could end up being an issue whenever we do have another freak incident like we had last year. That comes through and potentially, could get some water in your house. One of the things that you get when you get a big, fast-growing city is you obviously get commercial development and industrial and all kinds of other stuff. If I were looking at a house myself, and I was in and around these kind of commercial developed areas, with these big industrial warehouses and things that are going up, I would be very hesitant at buying within, earshot or within sight of those things, right? The constant noise, again, this is kind of a common theme, as you've noticed, with the location and being near things that you maybe don't want to be near to. So being close to those big things with, the bright lights that are constantly on at those warehouses, especially if you look at some of these big data centers, right? Like data centers is a hot button topic around San Antonio right now. So if you're near a big data center, you just got light pollution that's flooding your backyard. Being around those areas, it has its perks because you're going to have a lot of stuff close by, a lot of good developments, shopping and restaurants and groceries that come up along with those things. But if you're trying to be in a more rural location and you have these things popping up, you're not going to feel rural at all. You're going to feel like you're right smack dab in the middle of the city, even if you're out on the outskirts in the suburb areas. Now let's shift gears and talk a little bit more about the houses themselves again, instead of just all these locations that we're talking about. And this is probably going to come as no shock to you guys. San Antonio, being a very affordable area, is filled with flippers. And by flippers, I mean house flippers. I mean people that go in and buy houses, old rundown houses, putting lipstick on a pig and trying to resell them essentially. And a lot of them do it just that way. There are a lot of flippers and remodeling contractors out there that do an outstanding job, build houses the right way, remodel houses the right way, and those houses sell incredibly fast. I've seen several of them, especially in that $300,000 to $400,000 price point, where they're listed and they get multiple offers. Even in this market, what we're having right now, which is more of a slow buyer's market, right? It's very favorable to those sellers that remodel and flip these houses appropriately. They do designs correctly. They do finishes right. They have good subs that build the house the right way. But whenever you get these people that try to DIY everything, it's very obvious. People walk in, they see all the problems immediately, and they turn around and walk right out the door. And there are tons of those out there right now that have just been sitting. And those people just don't make any money on these houses. They just sit, and they try to, keep raising the price because they think that, their house is worth more than it is, even though it's been sitting on the market for 6 months. And you have all kinds of situations like that. So it's also a big thing, in my opinion, to just flat out avoid, because you don't know what's underneath the cosmetic remodels that they did. We don't really know if there's true foundation problems with it. They may have just put a Band-Aid on it. We don't know if, there's water issues or mold issues that they covered up just with paint, because that can happen, Those things are out there, and those situations have occurred before. So you want to make sure that you're being very diligent in these remodels, making sure that the permits were pulled. You can go to resources online and search for those houses, especially if they're within the city limits of San Antonio, to make sure that the permits were pulled correctly. And most importantly, just pay attention to the construction. Have a real estate agent like myself or any of the agents on our team that are experienced with construction and have a lot of experience with investors as well, as to what is actually a good remodel and what is a poor remodel. As a lot of you know, and a lot of you that are looking to San Antonio are looking at San Antonio because we have two things going for us. We don't have hurricanes, and we very rarely get any tornadoes. When you look at Houston or the Gulf Coast in general, hurricanes are a big concern. But what San Antonio does have in regards to the weather events is hailstorms. Texas, by far and away, is the state with the most hailstorms that come through every single year. And if you are buying an older home in an existing neighborhood, you may feel like you're getting a great deal on it. It's in a beautiful neighborhood, very high quality home. You're spending $600,000, $700,000, $800,000 on that house. It's got an older roof, 15 years old, no big deal. It's up in Bernie, Bulverde, those areas on the northern parts of town. Well, come to find out, during the inspection, it's got hail damage. What does that mean? Okay, it's not going to cause that roof to leak, but what it will do is keep you from being able to get insurance on that roof. I've heard of experiences with clients of mine just recently, this week in fact, where they were getting insurance on a home that had a brand spanking new roof. and they still had a $30,000 deductible on that roof. In some of these areas, because of the amount of roof claims that have been made because of hail damage, these insurance companies are just flat out just saying like, yeah, we'll give you insurance on your house, but the roof is on your own. You got that covered. And so if you've got a house that has hail damage and you're trying to buy that house, it is very, very good idea to try to get that seller to cover the new roof on their dime when you're buying that house, whether it's going through their insurance and getting it covered, or even if they have to pay for it out of pocket for you to be able to buy that house. You've got a little bit of leverage as a buyer right now in this market. It is going to be very, very important for you if something happens in 6 months to a year and you get some random hailstorm that comes through your neighborhood, and now you've got an issue where you've got to replace your roof, so that you're not on the hook for that $15,000 to $30,000 bill to replace your roof. And get ahead of that too. As you're looking, talk to your insurance provider, talk to your insurance broker, whoever it is that you use, and find out what their requirements are. Give them some examples of houses and get them to show you, okay, this house, because it's got a 20-year-old roof, is a problem. This house, because it's got a 2-year-old roof, is good. We're good for at least 10 to 15 years on that one. So it gives you some time to budget and save for a brand new roof potentially. Now this last item is one that definitely a lot of people talk about, but not a lot of people really think about the real implications of it. All right, and I think that there's going to be plenty of people on this video that are watching right now, and I want you to comment if this is something that you're concerned about as well. But San Antonio is incredibly affordable. We have lots of different builders around here. We have lots of very low quality, low end builders that are selling brand new homes and just not taking the time and effort to make sure that it is a well built house. I think that a lot of these neighborhoods that are the lowest end on these new construction homes are going to be potentially a problem long term. Now, here's the caveat that I want to say with that. I personally think that renting is a giant waste of money. I think that buying a house is a much better investment if you've got to be in a property and make sure that you're going to spend money on your living, which every one of us has to. I would rather put $2,000 into buying a cheaper house than pay $1,500 a month for rent. Each person is going to be a little bit different on that aspect, but for me personally, I think it's well worth the investment to put the money into something that I own versus something that somebody else owns, because you're still paying for the same amount of stuff. You're paying for the property tax, you're paying for the the house itself, you're paying for the insurance. Even if you're not outright paying for it, you're paying it for somebody else. They're not going to take a loss on it whenever you go in and rent their property. And when we talk about the overall quality of these builders and these neighborhoods that they're building, you look at back in 2015 to, I would say, 2019, maybe 2018 if we're really kind of looking at it. 2019 started to where things kind of went downhill on these lower price builders. Those homes were not that bad. The $200,000 houses were really great homes. I bought one of them. in 2017. I had a great home from one of these low-cost builders that I'm talking about right now, which I'm not going to name in this video. And it was a solid house. Brick all four sides, great greenbelt lot, some really high-end stuff on the inside, great flooring. I mean, all the stuff that you come to know and love from like a $400,000+ house. One of these, higher end builders that I talk about a lot, Perry's, the Highlands, and David Weekley, Scott Felder's, Coventry, those types of builders. When you get to those super, super low price points now, every house looks the same. It is true cookie cutter fashion on these houses. They've used the cheapest materials that they can. They do 8-foot ceilings. These are the homes that you struggle to sell at any point in time in the future whenever you're listing it. So in my opinion, if you're going to buy a new construction home that is on that lower price point, I would highly recommend save up a little bit. Make sure that you've got a little bit of a down payment, or you can afford maybe a couple $100, $200-$300 a month more, and get with a slightly better builder that is going to be kind of on that upper 200s range, because that's when you can start to open up your options and look for more builders and that have a little bit better reputation, and then it makes sure that you're in a house that will last long term. The house itself matters. How you take care of it matters a lot as well. The location, like we've talked about here, matters a huge amount. And if you need help deciphering any of these specific things for your specific situation, please, please, please give us a call. This number right here is how you can reach us directly, and we have other information down in the description if you want to email us as well. But give us a call and we'll talk you through exactly what your situation needs. Whether you're looking at $200,000 houses or multi-million-dollar houses, we can kind of walk you through each individual process, and that's what we're here for. Now, not all of these homes in San Antonio are money pits or going to cause you problems. So if you want to see a list of the homes that are selling extremely quickly, this is a video that I did right here. I think you're going to like it. It really talks about all the details of how these homes really, really sell.